Hey, welcome everybody back to Off Day with Ballpark Nation. I'm here. Andy Tom Cheston is here. Now, before we jump into all things sports and entertainment, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to my mother, who, among other things, is almost directly responsible, Andy, for people watching and listening to this show. And if they don't like it, she's 100% responsible.
Almost. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Hey, let's get I guess we're going to go in reverse order of what I have planned, mostly because we actually have some pretty unfun stuff to talk about in the nature of fandom. I feel like our show, Andy, has become as much a commentary on fandom of sports as it is on sports. But you have a funny tagline again. Michael Early, we hardly knew you. A&M swept by Missouri. You needed a sweep the other way. You thought to stay in contention. 3 games left against, is it Georgia? What are you thinking?
Who the fuck knows? I don't know what you're getting out of this team at this point. For the first 3-4 innings, they played really well against Missouri on Friday night, and then got outscored 22-2 the rest of the way. This was a Missouri team who came in, who was historically one of the worst SEC teams ever. Hadn't won a series, hadn't won an SEC game yet. And A&M completely rolled over. The pitching was okay for the first 2 games. Offense didn't show up. Offense and pitching didn't show up at all on Sunday, just like they basically didn't come to the ballpark. So I don't know what's going to happen when they go to Georgia next weekend. My, gut says they're going to lose all 3 games. This team could win 2 of 3. I just don't know, but I don't know that it matters because I don't know that the NCAA is real interested in putting such an inconsistent team in the tournament. Because in general, SEC teams won't go in as a 4th seed. So if they're not worthy of being a 3rd seed, I don't think they get in. And as of today, Monday, May 12th, they don't get in the tournament. And that will be the first time in at least 35 years that the number 1 preseason ranked team doesn't even make the tournament. Their only hope right now is a miracle run in Hoover in 2 weekends. And this team's not built for it. I do think, though, that the call to can Michael Early is
a little early.
Well, it's early and it's a little bit presumptuous. And frankly, we knew he was a first-year coach, and unfortunately his learning on the job didn't work out the way we wanted to. I don't know that all the reasons that you hired him have gone away. And my fear, in certainly the A&M AD should not be operating out of fear, but my fear is he's going to be a really good coach in 2 years for somebody else.
Let's talk about that, because I agree with you. I also think that firing him sends a really bad message of panic, where you can look at reasonable logistical reasons why A&M struggled, injuries being chief among them. I don't know what the role of a college baseball coach really has when it comes to wins and losses, but it does seem like he has the talent to be a coach. You've already given him a year worth of hard lessons. Maybe there's another year of hard lessons. Do you really want to have somebody else reap the benefits when he figures it all out?
I think that's part of the issue. And I think we talk as a fan base, the A&M fan base talks about things like this pretend scenario that Urban Meyer was going to be our coach, because instead of hiring him out of Utah, we hired Dennis Francione. And the trajectory of the program would have been dramatically different, one presumes, if Urban Meyer had been the head coach of Texas A&M at the turn of the century. I don't know that Michael Early is an Urban Meyer, but I don't know that the skill set in college baseball is – I don't think the gap between a good coach and a great coach is all that far. I think Early's got a lot of upside, and I think A&M would be making a mistake getting rid of him this quickly in his tenure. And it's also, you're talking about completely trying to rebuild a roster on the fly in the world of the portal. It's easier to do, but it's also, if you don't have somebody who's already been recruiting Texas and recruiting top guys, harder to do, because you're going to get, what's left. And you can do it, but the margin for error is pretty slim. I'd rather build on the recruiting he's been doing, keep the guys that he's able to hold on to, and have somewhat of a roster rather than a pick and a poke. And I think that's, if you're changing coaches right now, unless you go get, the head coach from Florida, the head coach from Ole Miss, well, not the Ole Miss guy. He's available, I guess. But on Rob Vaughn, you go pull Arkansas's head coach. You go make a big splash. And those moves, despite what we saw last year going from College Station to Austin, aren't common. And I think the days of A&M pretending they can money whip any coach they want to, it's a little bit silly. And I don't know if it was ever real, but it's certainly not real today. I'd rather grow with this guy than go find the next thing, because I think we'd be getting another first-year coach or another guy really early in his career that's still learning.
One of the things I saw on some of the Aggie Twitter threads that I came across were the fear. These were people that wanted early gone, but the fear that he would be staying because as revenue sharing and all these things are coming in, he's cheap. I don't think Texas A&M makes decisions based on him being cheap. That just sounded like another stupid fan conspiracy theory to me.
Well, it is real that we're still paying Jimbo Fisher like $27 million a year for a while, and that's cutting into the profits of the AD or the revenue of the AD, however you want to look at it, top line, bottom line. But I don't think that's the reason you keep Michael Early. I just think that the entire AD is constrained at some point by mistakes of the past. But I don't think firing somebody because they're inexpensive or keeping somebody because they're inexpensive is the move. And I don't think going out and paying the most in college for a head coach, which frankly, having 3 coaches in 3 years is what you'd have to do to really attract somebody, is the move either. Baseball, despite how much we love it, is not really considered a revenue sport in most schools. A&M is one of them, but it's not like it's bringing in millions of dollars like football does. It's doing better than breaking even. And you do have to be fiscally responsible at some point with that, because you do have other sports that you fund, and you can't take everything away from, for instance, the number 1 seeded softball team in the country right now for the NCAA tournament to make your baseball fans feel better, because it's boys sports versus girls sports, which is a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But I do think there are some constraints. I don't think that's the reason they keep him or get rid of him, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an investment. I think you have to. The fact that he held on to so much of that roster is proof enough of why you keep the guy, because in baseball, more than any other sport, it's really about who you have on the field, not necessarily who's in the dugout. I think a football coach can scheme enough to overcome for a talent mismatch, but I think in baseball it's all about the talent that you have, and the longer and the more consistent you keep the coaching staff, the better you are going to hold on to your talent.
Yeah, I think you see a difference that you probably bring in a different hitting coach, because I think that Early, even if there's somebody in that offensive coach role, has been serving as the offensive coach and the head coach, and I don't think you can do that in college baseball anymore. I think that you have a guy concentrating on helping these guys get better off the field, and your job as the head coach is what's happening on the field and making the lineup decisions and the things that are forward facing to a lot of times. I think that'll be a difference you see if Early stays. I think what he needs to do is figure out how to hold on to Gavin Grahovic and get him to come back from his injury, hold on to Caden Sorrell, and pick up another few key guys in the portal. And I think you're not far away from being a very competitive team in 2026. This year, unfortunately, again, barring a miracle run in Hoover, it's on the pit right now.
It was a weird weekend overall in the SEC for baseball. Texas lost 2 of 3 to Florida, but I'm not at all concerned in the sense of I looked deeper in the numbers of the sweep of Arkansas, and then I looked at a lot, and I was able to focus more closely on the Florida game. And if Texas stops walking guys and hitting guys, Texas doesn't lose all but one of those games. And so I feel like those are the kinds of things you have 2 weeks to correct. They weren't doing it before the Arkansas series, so those are things you can correct. I know that there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction. Texas won't be number one right now. They shouldn't be. Probably LSU should be number one.
Well, I mean, you lose 2 series in a row. That's hard to defend.
Totally. Although a lot of everybody else that was really kind of expected to win didn't. But the reality is the reason why you play all of your season schedules, you're still 20-6 in the conference, and you're one win away from at a minimum sharing the conference title. Now, the big reason why I care about the conference title is I don't know, and I didn't think this back in January when we started talking about college baseball. I don't know that this is a national championship team anyway. I think they have overachieved from what everybody expected Texas to be, and I would like to at least get one skin on the wall to help recognize that the season really was better than most people expected.
I think anytime you have a chance to win a title of any sort, you win the title. And it's one of the things that bugs me about the way college sports are. And football is going to be this way because we have a playoff now. But baseball and basketball are kind of the same way. You should want to win your conference. You should want to win your conference tournament. We can argue all day long that one of those things shouldn't matter or you don't need a conference tournament anymore in 2025. But they exist, and if you're going to be there, you might as well compete to win. And I think Texas absolutely should want to, Schloss should want to, from a standpoint of building a roster and recruiting guys and attracting top talent versus really good talent, be able to point out that, look, with half of my plan in place, we won the SEC in our first year. That's a thing you can sell. Not that Texas requires a lot of selling, but the guys who are considering, do I want to go into the MLB draft? Do I want to forego it completely? Right. Those are the level of guys that Schloss is trying to bring to that roster. When you have a premier guy come out in the portal, those are the guys that want to know that they can go win something and have a meaningful season in their last year and not just pad stats to hopefully attract the MLB the next summer. So win the things you have in front of you. That should be any baseball team's goal, any sports team's goal. If you're going to compete, you might as well win.
Yeah, and I think, again, one win against the thing about facing Arkansas and facing Florida is both of those teams were hot at the time, particularly Florida. Florida has been rolling. Oklahoma is not. They've lost 4 straight SEC games. They're probably going to be unranked, and there's going to be a little extra giddy up and wanting to beat OU. So I would be shocked if they do not win the series, at a minimum win one game and clinch the SEC.
Well, I can tell you that being shocked is a thing that can happen in baseball based on this last weekend. But I also think that, Texas has a good road in front of them. I agree with you. I don't know that they are a win Omaha level team yet, but you make a good run, and that goes a long way towards recruiting, building a roster, getting the donors excited about putting money into the program, which is always a thing, regardless of what the name is on the front of your jersey. You always want more money to build whatever it is you want to build. Right. Somebody's got to pay for that grass that's going to replace the turf. I mean, that's not cheap.
Hopefully someone's going to pay for the whole new ballpark that will replace the ballpark. But I'll take a season in Round Rock if it means a new ballpark at the level of what A&M has.
I mean, and A&M's facing the same thing with facilities, and we do have construction happening right after the season, at least for the players. So the good news there, and I think it's another reason you keep early to circle back to that, is because he's cultivated some of that money. He's cultivated some of those donors this year, and you have to start completely over with those guys also. Mm-hmm. And that's another part of college sports in 2025.
Yeah. The SEC does a lot of things well, Andy. There are 2 things that they really swung and missed on. One is a technical. They need a better website for tracking scores and stats. For example, it's asinine how sometimes if you're trying to do like the sort of game, forgot what MLB calls it on their app, but trying to do the stat watch, they don't really update. Right now, it still has Texas as only having played 26 conference games on the standings list. So that sucks. And not letting OU and A&M actually play a championship game when they had all of Sunday to do so is a real – I understand why, and I'm sure the coaches actually don't care, but the players care and the fans do, and that should be some part of the equation.
Well, So here's my rub, where it does actually matter, and yes, ultimately it didn't, because A&M was named the number 1 seed in the softball bracket, so good for them. Great season for Tricia Ford and her team. But you rob those kids of a chance to actually play for a championship, and I think that's bad for OU. It's bad for A&M. It's bad for the sport, because you want to be able to. I think that was going to be on ESPN2, so it was going to have an audience. You want that crowd to start getting into the excitement of college softball and being able to watch that, and you basically took that away, and that's sad for me as a fan. That's sad for me as somebody who has coached young ladies in softball and know that they want to win and play those games and all that fun stuff.
Beyond the fact that professional softball is starting to grow, so I mean, there's all kinds of things you're affecting.
It was a really weird decision, knowing that the regionals didn't start for 6 days afterwards. It wasn't a time crunch issue. I mean, it's almost like, well, we didn't rent the field for Sunday, which I know is not a thing, but that's what it felt like. It's, oh, well, the soccer team's going to practice on Sunday on the field, so we can't play. It was bewildering. I also have noticed that OU got the automatic bid from the SEC by virtue of being the number 1 seed in the tournament, going into the SEC tournament, which would be another reason not to. Let's say A&M wasn't A&M, and you were talking about a team from Mississippi State whose only chance to make the tournament was to play that championship game.
Yeah.
Would we have been okay with co-champs in that situation? I don't think so. So I don't know what the difference is. But that was disappointing. Both teams will celebrate their co-champs. I've already seen OU fans who are really violent about softball. By the way, I said, nobody cares about a number 1 seed right now in the tournament, so I don't know why you're getting all excited. Because they didn't get it.
Because they didn't get it.
But that's the dirt burglars all over. How dare you be excited about something that we're not allowed to be excited about?
And I think we need to figure out something other than, it's one thing to have college baseball in Omaha every year, because there's not really, I mean, Nebraska's not really good at baseball, so it doesn't really matter. But the fact that Oklahoma is the powerhouse and they get to play a home game every single time, I think something needs to be addressed in the sport. We can get into that when that starts. Hey, are you surprised that Texas ended up with a 6th seed after all? I know they've struggled down the run, but I was a little shocked that they were seeded that low.
I mean, seeding is what it is. I don't know that's it's the results. I am very much a God, I can't remember his name right now. New Orleans Saints coach. You are the Minnesota Vikings coach. You are what your record says you are. The problem with being Texas this year is that you have so many elite softball teams that even if you're right there, you've still got 5 teams that might be better than you, and it's been kind of played out on the field. I think struggling down the pike certainly affected them. I think the way they lost to A&M in the tournament affected them. It's hard to come back from being run ruled and have that committee say, "Hey, it's fine. You're still a 2 seed, 3 seed kind of team." But they're still a national seed. They're still in a good position to advance past regionals. I fully expect them to, barring something really weird happening.
Every time you hear regionals, do you think of the show Community? Because I do.
Merry Christmas, Greendale. Glee Club here, reminding you that our Christmas pageant is coming. Next stop, regionals.
What the hell are regionals? They never stop talking about it.
And to think they were this close to regionals.
What the hell are regionals?
They're this close, Pierce. Nobody let him corner you until he is out of recruitment mode, or next thing you know, we'll all be caring about Christmas pageants and regionals.
Right. Deal. Agreed.
Gotcha.
What the hell are regionals?
Well, we're gonna need all hands on deck if we're gonna go to regionals.
And then, this morning, I could hear them in the bathroom doing country western mashups, and they won't stop talking about regionals. Maybe we're shooing for regionals, right?
I just hope we can repay you by making regionals.
I thought this was regionals. Don't let my confusion undercut their importance.
And it's going to continue to be a good time. If we win regionals, then it's straight on to sectionals. And then a week later is semis, then semi-regionals, then regional semis, then national lower zone semis.
I hate the whole semifinal, final, regional. It's all just dumb. And it brings me back to high school, where you can, if you are a less an athletic department who has less than a lot of success, you start getting patches for your letter jacket about being the tri-district champion, which means there was a 3-way tie for second place in your district, and you all made the playoffs. Yay!
Was that like winning the Tri-Wizard tournament? All right,
Exactly.
so over the weekend, the Astros. What a weird, if you go look at it, what a weird series it was, because they took 2 of 3 from the Reds. They scored over 6 runs, I think, in all 3 of those games. Is that right? And shut them out in 2 of them. Didn't shut them out on Saturday. We'll talk about the on-field stuff. Lance McCullers was the victim of the true outcome. He walked the first 2 batters he faced. And then one of my favorite players in baseball, Ellie De La Cruz, hit just a rope into the Crawford boxes. Before you know it, it's 3-0. Not a great performance from Lance. Is this, hey, we're still working our way back, and this is now the first time he's had to do this 2 in a row? Is there something concerning to you that you think, Raggy?
If Sunday he had immediately gone on the IL, then yes, I would have been concerned, but I don't think that's the issue. I think he is right, wrong, or indifferent rehabbing on the field. And I know there's, you have a certain amount of time that you're allowed to stay in the minors and work on injuries and all that kind of stuff, but he was on 60-day DL, so he should have been able to stay longer, but the Astros made a choice. The choice is now he's going to be in the rotation, and you're going to live with the results until they start looking like what you want them to look like. I think that everything bad that could have happened on Saturday happened, which happens in baseball sometimes. Some of us old-time fans remember that the Reds also scored like 14 runs in a first inning on the Astros in a game way long ago. Of course, that was a much better Reds team than what we saw this weekend.
Right.
But it's a thing that happens in baseball. It's a thing that fans are gonna overreact to. But every year, about once a month, you have some team that just goes off in the first inning, and before the home team even gets an at-bat, they're down 9, 10, 12 runs. It's a reason you play 162 games, frankly. Weird shit happens, and I chalk Saturday up to weird shit. What I was encouraged by is, even down 12 runs or 10 runs before they even got to taking at bat, the Astros kept battling. And I know, participation trophy level stuff at that point, but they did go score 9 runs. They did try to stay in the game. And frankly, with the Reds pitching the way they were kind of in the game after like the 3rd inning again.
Yeah.
So you won the series.
To the point that the Reds used their closer up 5. I mean, they were, yeah.
You won the series, and frankly, at this stage of baseball, we're still at May 12th. Just win series. That's all I care about. I know some people want us to go on a long winning streak, and that would be great. But you win 2 of every 3, you're going to be pretty good, sitting in a pretty good place at the end of the year. And even with all the perceived struggles of the last 10 days, we're 2 games behind Seattle, who is starting to play like Seattle typically plays in the summer.
Yeah, I mean they got the shit kicked out of them by a Toronto team that's not very good.
Right.
But all right. So the big news that came out of that loss, though, was the death threats that Lance McCullers Jr. faced. And I saw the internet's reaction. So I was in the ballpark. We did leave early. We didn't leave that early. People were mad at our fans for booing Lance. Lance was never booed while he was on the field. In fact, when he left the field, he got a round of applause. Now, whether it was sarcastic or not, I do not know. Logan Van Way was booed immediately, but Lance was not. And then we hear about the death threats, and then we hear about, he's canceled his Twitter account since then. I don't know what's been grosser, Andy, the death threats or the number of people on Twitter who think Lance made it up as a way to cover for a bad performance. It's like we're losing our minds with all of this stuff.
This will be hot take of the morning. There are few things that could be worse for the Astros fan base than winning a championship. And we won 2 of them, and the expectations have remained sky high, even though the team's talent has fallen off from that peak of 2022. And I would argue the peak of 2019, really. Lance McCullers Jr. is a hero on at least one of those teams and pitched during that 2022 World Series run, although he didn't make it past the first round because of injury. He has taken a number of years to get back. We have been fed, and some of this Lance needs to own, and it doesn't excuse anything that happened over the weekend, but the constant positive updates about what angle he was throwing from over the last 3 years, and then there'd be a setback. And none of that's his fault, but sometimes you do need to learn just kind of stay quiet until there's something to really talk about. Again, none of that excuses what a small segment of our fan base decided to do towards him and his family over the weekend based on a pitching performance in what is a game, regardless of how much emotion or personality you have wrapped up in it.
Sure.
And there's a lot of frustration. I saw it even with the people who were saying that was a bad look or something you shouldn't do, that Lance McCullers has been stealing money from the Astros for the last 3 years. It's just a child's understanding of how the world works and a tantrum being thrown when it doesn't go the way you expect it to be going. And the people are vile who are doing this. The people have something physically or mentally wrong with them when they're doing this, but they're children. They are people who can't handle emotions, and so they lash out in the most base way. They don't have the intelligence to deal with their own shit, and their lives are, frankly, probably so miserable that the only thing they have to look forward to is the Astros winning a game on May 10th.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything more damning than that, because I love it when the Astros win, and I frankly get depressed when the Astros lose, but I don't consider running my car into a wall because you didn't win a game against the fucking Reds in May.
Yeah. No, I don't. The threats are one thing, and then I'm even reading a moron on Twitter. What is his name? The Astros Shadow, who is, first of all, what a stupid name to have for your Twitter account, but has basically put on Twitter that he put a video of the Astros fans singing "Happy Birthday" to Zach DeZenzo, and then he said, "Hard to believe these are the same fans who are being accused of death threats towards LMG for being MIA for 3 years and coming back worse than ever." Like, this Shadow Stro guy, you're the problem, because why is it a stretch to believe that morons in this day and age would overreact to something and then immediately blame victim blame by saying, well, it didn't really happen? Like, it happens all the time. Of course it happens.
I think there's also got to be some acknowledgement that there's a difference between some of the 47,000 people who pay to be in the ballpark, who are there ostensibly to have a good time, and the nameless, anonymous idiots on the internet who think there is no repercussion for them saying the wildest shit they can possibly say. Those are the people who are making death threats. It's not the people who bought a ticket in 102 and are just happy to get a hot dog and a beer at a ballpark. That's not that. So there can be multiple personalities, factions, individuals in a fan base. It's not that, well, they did this one game, but the next game they sing happy birthday and gave everybody hand jobs. That
I was not there for that one, unfortunately.
Well, you went back early. That was the Sunday giveaway.
Yeah, well, yeah, what a giveaway it was.
But yeah, it's gross. I don't know. There's a stronger word certainly to use, but I don't understand this. I'm going to die if my team doesn't do what I want it to do, especially in fucking May. Wouldn't it be excusable, but I can almost understand it if it was a playoff series and the Astros bombed a game, or you had a starting pitcher who gave up 10 runs in the first inning. And you lost to the Rangers or you lost to the Yankees, and there's a lot of emotion involved, and people say stupid shit. Still doesn't excuse death threats. Still doesn't excuse death threats towards children, but I could understand it. It's kind of the Chris Rock thing. I don't condone it, but I understand it. This is a fucking baseball game, 1 of 162, where a guy didn't meet whatever fucking expectations you created in your own head for 30 minutes. And because of that, in your mind, their children are targets. And if you can argue the counter of that, there's something really, really wrong with you in your brain. And you need to go to therapy before you really harm somebody.
And I just assume they're all incels, especially guys like this jack off who's like, he thinks he's fucking anonymous or something. Like he's out there doing some Lord's work hacker thing, but really know what you are is probably some middle-aged white guy who can't get laid by his wife, who's got some kind of tax attorney job he doesn't want to lose. You're not a tough guy. You're a coward. So, you know what? I invite you on the show if you want to come and say that shit, like, not anonymously.
Well, no, because then there'd be repercussions for their words, for their kicky clacks.
Yeah, there would be. There would be. All right, let's jump into our Aggie Longhorn and Astros clip of the week.
It's going to be softball.
It's okay, because mine's going to be rowing.
Post. Harper hits that one a long, long way. And Amari's got a 3-run homer. Wow. How about a single, a double, and now a 3-run home run for Amari Harper. The junior has just been blasting a .390 batting average. And she's taken the ball out of the park. That is an off-speed drop that is just elevated, and she is not fooled whatsoever. Gets right into that ball. Immediately, you knew it was leaving the park.
Chance now with only one out. Diaz crushes it deep to left field, and you can kiss it goodbye. Yiner hits home run number 4 of the season. That's a 9-game hitting streak and a 3-0 Astros lead. How about Yiner in the month of May, Joe? He has really turned it on.
Grand final, the last race of our 2022 NCAA championships.
The Longhorns way out in front here. The connection between this crew is palpable. It could be a repeat for them. There is that new sheriff in town because that could be the national championship team overall. It is the Longhorns for the win.
Living out my dream, my life is different. If I want it, then I'ma get it. Living every day like it's Christmas. Cause I'm gifted. And I know I'm a gifted. And I know I'm gifted. And I know I'm a gifted. Cause I'm gifted. I got a whole lot of people that's been counting on me. I met Shorty and we connected like the Wi-Fi. Hopped in the Phantom, disappeared.
And speaking of rowing, the Longhorns did win their 7th Southeast Conference championship this weekend with rowing. And then I think there are 4 more at stake. I think they already clinched the athletic department of the year for the SEC and
is that still the Sears Cup or whatever they used to call it? Capital One Cup. I don't think
it's. I think it's this. Maybe it's a Sears. I don't know. I know
really
they also won the.
Sears is out of business. I really hope it's a Sears Cup.
I really do. And you have to wait for Roebuck to get it to you. No, and they've also won the athletic director of the year. So our direct program, whatever that is. Again, they won 3 of those last 4. So, yay for us. I did see a couple of movies, Andy, that one I was pretty disappointed in. I saw finally the remake of The Wolfman. And you can do a lot of things in a movie, Andy, but you can't be boring. And it was boring. Hardly a wolf or a man in the film. However, if you're looking for some good atmospheric horror, The Damned, which was an Irish film taking place in Iceland, but they speak English. You don't have to read it or anything. But psychological horror, substantially creepy. Highly recommend checking it out. Andy, any final thoughts this week before we bust out of here?
I didn't mind Wolfman. I like Julia Garner, though, so it may be partly that. It was fairly predictable about what everything was going to happen. So, if you want to have something on and stare at your phone while you're doing something else, it's not the worst thing to have. I don't know if that's praise or not. My final thought, though, is our alma mater, St. Pius X High School in Houston, Texas, is in the Final Four for baseball this week. Today, they play Central Catholic in Arlington at the UT Arlington Field at 4 o'clock.
Cool.
So if they win today, they play for the championship tomorrow. So good luck to the Panthers.
Go Panthers. Yeah, we were always a good baseball school. At least when you and I were there, it was always a good baseball school. So
they're getting back there. This is the second year in a row they've made the Final Four. So good things.
Well, go Panthers. And until then, go Stros, go Aggies, and go Longhorns. We will see you guys next week.